Okay, so we're recording now. So Jamie Lawson, our planning director, she'll be running the show here, just doing the presentation. We also have Philip Walker with the Walker Collaborative. He's the main reason him and Keith Covington were the folks that worked on Burlington's historic district design standards. And we do have, I do see our chair, Mr. Brian Pennington from the Historic Preservation Commission, as well as one of our members, Mr. Vernon Hess, who also sits on our Historic Preservation Commission. And I do see Christy Brantley with the State Historic Preservation Office. Mr.
Hey,
Petty.
how are you guys?
Hey, how you doing, Christy? Thanks for joining. And Mr. Petty, I see you. Thanks for hopping on. I see Marcy Sigmund. Thanks for hopping on. And Aaron Shepard is joining us too. Thank you all for joining us. And with that, Jamie, I think you are, I'll just let folks in as they come along, and you can share the screen now and feel free to take it away. Let's see. Yeah, let me ask you to unmute real quick.
Mute. I'm on mute. Okay. Now, can you hear me okay now?
Yeah, definitely.
Great.
Thanks.
Okay. So again, I'm Jamie Lawson, Planning Director for the City of Burlington. Really pleased to have this additional online learning seminar offered, summarizing where we have been over the last year and just kind of an overview of some of the findings associated with the implementation of the local historic district standards. Okay, just kind of recapping a little bit for those who have not been part of some of our other seminars.
Real quick, Jamie, I don't see your, we don't see your screen real quick.
Oh, sorry. Hold on. Let me share my screen. Is that better?
Yeah, we can see it. Thanks.
Okay, sorry about that. So just to recap, so this is the fourth and final series in our series of Let's Talk seminars. We had two previous online sessions, one in March and one in May. The March session, we talked about how to apply during if you've got projects in the historic district. And then in May, we talked about the standards generally and how they apply. Here we're talking about the one-year review. And then also in May, we had a in-person training in downtown Burlington, learning about the history of downtown and celebrating in conjunction with National Historic Preservation Month. Let's see, on to the next slide. Okay, so just again, in sort of summary and overview, we have two local historic districts. One was established in 1987. That was the West Davis Street Historic District. I'm going to try to change my pointer to a laser pointer. There we go. So this is the West Davis Historic District on this screen. That was again established in 1987. And then we have the Glencoe Mill Historic District that was established in 1999. We also have several local landmarks. So our standards apply to the local historic districts and then the 6 local landmarks that are in the city. But we also have some other nationally recognized properties that the standards do not apply to, but they're areas of significance. This slide just kind of summarizes the 3 concepts to grasp in the design standards themselves. We have our matrix, and I'll show that in more detail in a couple of slides. But the matrix kind of defines and tells us what type of certificate of appropriateness would somebody acquire based on the type of work. Then we have the application that tells us the process flow, whether something is administrative versus going to the Historic Preservation Commission versus just general maintenance items, and that's this here. We call it a kind of our matrix. And then we have the standards themselves, which tell us the different requirements for review, doing work and construction. So the standards themselves were adopted by the City Council. Again, they apply to the local historic districts and the landmarks. They're administered either by the HPC, the Historic Preservation Commission, or city staff. And the standards help to distinguish between the type of work that needs to be applied for and the type of application itself. One of the things I wanted to just kind of highlight when we were looking at the creation of the design standards, we were really trying to modernize the standards, because the standards themselves were previous standards were over 30 years old. We wanted to help streamline the process and make it easier for applicants as well, and just kind of clarify things that were gray or kind of misunderstood. So I'll talk a little bit more as we go through this PowerPoint on whether or not we've met those goals. Again, this just kind of highlights some of the breakdown in our standards themselves and how the standards are developed. Table of contents was really helpful. We didn't have one of those before to help clearly depict where you would go to find the information, and the PDF that we have on our website is all hyperlinked. So again, we're just trying to make information as user-friendly and available to all as possible. So the matrices that I referred to over the next couple of slides help to identify, based upon the type of work or where it is on the property, and whether or not an item would fall to a major work, going to the Historic Preservation Commission, going to review by staff through a minor certificate of appropriateness, or something that fell just under general maintenance. And for those who have been on these calls before, you'll know that we did do a number of shifts from items going from major to minor and minor to general maintenance through better standards, better definitions, more direct information on the applications themselves, and better insight to what we were looking for. So I think that we've definitely accomplished a number of more positive outcomes associated with that. Again, just kind of flipping through, this section deals with structures, building features, landscaping, and other site features. But you'll see, again, the three categories: major, minor, and no COAs. I wanted to just kind of give a quick summary of the trends and the numbers of COAs. And I went back through our annual reports that get submitted to the State Historic Preservation Commission. They review our annual reports and then certify us as a certified local government. So you can see in 2018 and 2019, and the years go from or the time period within the years don't follow the calendar year, but they follow like October to September. So we haven't hit a full year yet in 2023, but you could see that we averaged over the last couple of years about 40 minor and major COAs together. And then we've sort of dropped a little bit over the last year. That may be due to a number of different reasons, the development of the new standards, and like I said, the shifting from items going from major to minor to general maintenance. There's also, I think, more a bit of a slowdown in projects and materials over the last several years. So hopefully those numbers will pick back up, but it could be that people are just doing other types of projects and not coming for major COAs or minor COAs. This shows the same information, just in a different graphic. Again, you can see the trends and the shift of the COAs over the last several years going up, with a little over half of majors versus minors, and then a drop in the last year, but roughly half of the applications were major COAs. And these are the type of applications that we've been receiving over the last year. Again, with the minors being associated with fences or landscape revisions, roof replacements, garage door upgrades, window replacements, or AC and unit installations. Those are all of the applications or types of applications that we have reviewed administratively. There's no requirement for public notice or going in front of the Historic Preservation Commission. Staff reviews those applications, and pretty much, if they're deemed complete, can review them in a day or two, which certainly helps to make the homeowners or property owners happy, because then they can get their projects done really quickly. Then these are the different major applications that we have received that have gone in front of the Historic Preservation Commission. There's been a building addition in Glencoe, a new driveway associated with the building addition, awning removal. That project probably could have gone under a minor COA, but there was not clear documentation whether or not the awning was actually an original awning or a replacement. So staff urged on the side of caution and had the applicant go in front of the Historic Preservation Commission. Then we've also had a new deck and new patios, all under major COAs. So again, a summary of the applications over the last year, about almost equal components dealing with fences, patios and decks, roof replacements, window replacements, and then this category here of other made up almost a third, but these were each kind of individual applications. Some of the general maintenance items that we received calls about, but gave feedback, but no COAs were required. Installation of gutters where the color matches the trim, or painting of siding and trim, replacement of doors and windows if it didn't alter the appearance, and then removal of dead or diseased trees. In the past, those types of applications have had to go in front of the Historic Preservation Commission, and that was one of the changes that were made when we developed the updated standards. However, we still rely on our city arborist to go out and verify the condition of the trees, to verify that they're either dead or diseased, and we keep records of that. So we feel like that's a good extra step just to be cautious. And then just another, way to help streamline the process as part of the development of the standards. We wanted to clearly or better visually depict the different types of processes so that applicants or property owners could get a better sense of potentially how long a process may take or what the steps may be. I have inserted this into emails when I've sent feedback to folks, so it helps to explain the process a bit more. And we found this to be a very useful tool. basically outlining, the no COAs, the minor COAs, and then the major COAs, with the final outcome of, if somebody needs ultimately a building permit. And with that in mind, the design standards also includes information that's just as a reference, that we incorporated in conjunction with our inspections department on kind of next steps. If somebody is performing work that may require additional permits, we wanted to be, kind of full disclosure. This may be not the end of the process, but you might have one more step. And we certainly didn't want somebody to not be aware of that. And there certainly are things that work that's performed that is exempt from additional permits too. All of our training sessions have been uploaded, recorded and uploaded to the city's website and under our historic preservation page on our online learning page. So this is just kind of highlighting if you're looking for additional information on our other workshops, and the downtown tour was recorded. So that's also another aspect if you're interested in hearing more about the city. One of the, I wouldn't say outstanding, but kind of next steps that we're working towards as part of the standards is to implement the design review committee. And that is kind of a voluntary board that was not comprised of Historic Preservation Commission members, but it would be folks who are interested and have experience or expertise in historic preservation that can serve as a resource to applicants to provide feedback and advice on potential applications and projects. We are looking to implement that tool so that it's another resource for the community to get feedback on probably more large scale projects, such as new construction or major additions. So there's a lot of words on this screen, but again, when we started the process in the development of the design standards, we had 3 overarching goals: to modernize the standards, streamline the process, and to create user-friendly standards. And I think we've been very, very successful at implementing those standards and achieving them. And then some of the other outcomes I've really highlighted through the presentation in terms of what we've seen, shifting major COAs to minor COAs and general maintenance, providing more flexibility. We also instituted an expedited process for emergency situations and disaster preparedness. We haven't had to, luckily, we haven't had to worry about that as of yet, but in the event that something happens, we have procedures to do that, as well as the design review committee. We feel that will also help to improve the process. So that kind of, summarizes where we have been over the last year. And I wanted to just open it up to see if anyone has any questions, or if anyone on the Historic Preservation Commission has their own insight on the implementation of the standards as well. Any questions?
Jamie, this is Christy. I've got a quick question. And I apologize, I don't have my camera on. I'm having some computer issues today. But what kind of feedback from the public have you received?
Well, that's a great question. I would say the the most amount of feedback that we got from the public was probably during the development of the standards themselves. And, during some of our other training sessions, I did go over the level of engagement, which was, I think, part of the success in the development of the standards themselves. We had representation from historic district residents, people on the Historic Preservation Commission. We also had local builders and architects, as well as representation from Preservation Burlington, which is a local nonprofit. So through the process, we had a lot of public engagement. I know, and subsequent to that, we've had postcards to go out, and our postcards went out to all of the property owners and properties and property owners with QR codes that would link to where you could find the standards on the website. We also held these different online and in-person workshops to promote and kind of solicit feedback from the public too, and kind of announce, the new standards themselves. So we've had very positive feedback at this point, and hopefully that will just continue. I would also say too that the design standards, just like any other document, like our Unified Development Ordinance or any of our other planning documents, is not a document that should sit on the shelf. We look at part of the process will be to look at it on an annual basis to see if there's changes or modifications that need to be made. I think we're still at a point where their standards are so new that we're not seeing a lot of changes at this point, but that's not to say in the future that that's not something that the HPC would recommend to council.
Right. Well,
Hope that answered your question.
yes, it did. Thank you very much. And no rush, but do you mind sharing a copy of that postcard with me? And would you feel
Oh, sure.
comfortable with me sharing it with others?
Yeah, no problem.
Put you on the spot right here. And
Yeah,
but anyway, very cool. Very good. Thank you.
of course. We certainly would appreciate and thank the State Historic Preservation Commission too, because we would not have been able to do this without receiving grant that helped to fund this project. So just wanted to thank Christy while we have the opportunity to do so.
Yeah, you guys did a great job with it, and we're great to work with. So we appreciate you.
Thanks. Any other questions?
So Jamie, I had one that I just submitted in the chat, and I'd be interested in learning if y'all have identified any needed changes to just the actual substance of the standards, as opposed to the process. I mean, obviously a lot of focus went into the process and trying to make it more user friendly, and that was a great achievement of the project. But I'd also be interested in learning, like, are there any specific standards that you've found to be problematic, or that you need to rethink at all?
Nothing specifically comes to mind. I think there may be some fine tuning in some of the line items just to make sure that we're capturing every type of work. It's really hard to do that but as questions come in or items are requested that may not be captured in the matrix, we're kind of keeping a log of that. So that's really, I think at this point, the only thing that I would say in terms of anything any modifications. I don't think there's any substantive changes that need to be made at this point. Brian, I don't know if you have anything that you want to add.
Well, I mean, I was really happy to see you share those numbers of applications, Jamie, because it really does show that there's been a reduction this year. I was going to say downturn, but that's a kind of negative take on it. And one interpretation of that change might be that under the new standards, people are seeing that there's work that they can undertake themselves under general maintenance without having to submit a COA, and perhaps we're not getting those applications that we might have in the past. In answer to Phil's question, the only thing that occurs to, I think we just haven't had enough we don't have enough miles on the standards yet to know where the sticking points might still be. And I think we need some more accumulated experience. The one data point that I have is actually a personal one. And I searched recently, I just talked to Jamie about this the other day, to see if I could strip painted masonry brick on my house that was not originally painted under general maintenance, or whether that's a COA. And that doesn't seem to be captured in the standards. One minor small thing.
Yeah, thanks for mentioning that. And when you say it's not captured, it's not on the matrix of COA versus minor or minor COA and all that, and that makes total sense, now that I'm thinking about it, because when you put that kind of thing together, you're initially just trying to think of every conceivable type of application you might get, but there's always going to be new ones. It's always like, aha, we didn't anticipate this one, And so I think that's a real natural thing, that over time that list is just going to grow and grow. And, I hope it doesn't become sort of unwieldy. Hopefully people, I think it's organized pretty well, though, that you could probably at least figure out, okay, here's a category of types of work, and then you could find it in there. But that does make a lot of sense that, as time goes on, you're just going to be expanding that list,
Right.
I mean, one area where I expect just further and ongoing discussion is around alternative materials, as technologies change, as the markets change and everything like that. And I just expect that to be an ongoing and developing conversation across, multiple HPCs, et cetera.
Right. Yeah, and we have had we had our meeting last night, so all of this is pretty fresh, but we've had, conversations about getting more educated in terms of what some of these other materials may be, and engaging with the contractors and the folks that offer alternative materials, so that we can have better judgment when these applications come in.
That reminds me to say something else, Jamie, and that is, our Historic Preservation Commission met last night for the first time in 3 months, because we hadn't had applications. We didn't have any applications last night either, but this is presenting us the opportunity to take up other issues that our particular HPC has not really been in the habit of doing. It's just freed up time to talk about educational initiatives, to think more broadly outside of just our National Register historic districts, about what roles the HPC could be assuming. So all of these feel like positive developments to me, and I hope that we embrace them.
Brian, any other questions or comments from the audience?
I see that Christy put a note in the chat that they're discussing alternative materials at an upcoming CLG training in Washington. So it looks like, to Brian's point, that there's a lot of discussion about alternative materials when it comes to the historic districts.
Yeah, certainly. And appreciate you mentioning that. Christy, you want to plug any of the upcoming classes that you guys are offering?
Yeah, I've got lots of things to plug. We're, if you're not a member of the North Carolina Preservation Listserv, I encourage you to join. If you need the link to that, I'll be glad to send that out. We're having an upcoming CLG training in Washington, North Carolina, August 24th, and modern materials, that's one of the topics. Reed Thomas out of our Eastern office will be discussing that. We are also having a training in Mount Airy, August 31st, and one in Sanford, September 25th. And then in November, we're having a planners only meeting, and we'll also discuss alternative materials there. And one more thing I want to plug, I'm going to throw it in the chat. We have to do a statewide historic preservation plan every 10 years for the National Park Service. It's tied to our funding. And when we do that, we send out a survey across the state to kind of try to get some input on, just get the pulse of historic preservation across the state. So I'm going to throw that link and just cut and paste from a recent email. If you all don't mind filling out that survey, we would really, really appreciate it.
Okay, yeah, and we can distribute that too with our to our Historic Preservation Commission as well.
Great, thank you.
Okay, Conrad, any final thoughts?
I'm not seeing any other questions come up, but for a final thought, if there was one, I know Philip, you've gone on to work on other projects and as our consultant, what's one thing that that you might have taken away from doing this update that you're looking at, when you talk to other cities around the Southeast or whatnot, that you're kind of make sure to remember, oh, this is what happened in Burlington. Let's make sure that we do something here for you all too.
Yeah, that's I'm glad you brought that up because so right now I'm working on guidelines in Wilmington and also Decatur, Alabama. And in both, we've incorporated the major minor matrix and the materials matrix, and people love it. they go crazy. I mean, they really and y'all were kind of the pioneers with that, our guinea pigs, you might say, but it's worked out well. But yeah, people really like that. I mean, they find it a real, both of those things to be really useful tools. I mean, everything else in the standards is pretty basic. I mean, it's kind of a compilation of looking at multiple standards and taking the best of everything and trying to get it in there with your all. So I think they're pretty comprehensive and stuff. But as far as something that other places didn't have, I'd say those two matrix were the thing, and people really like that. So yeah, that would be my biggest sort of takeaway from the Burlington project.
Well, I'm
Oh,
glad
that's
that
great.
it worked out. Yeah, I'm glad we were a guinea pig and also cutting edge.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I guess if there aren't any other questions or comments, I don't want to cut anybody short, but certainly appreciate everyone's time, and hopefully we can continue to do these seminars and workshops and engage the public and continue to do education and outreach. We're talking also about updating our walking tour materials and potentially expanding that to because we have got one currently for West Davis District and potentially doing another one in Glencoe Mill. So I think we've started a good trend with the engagement, and I know that the Historic Preservation Commission is interested in continuing that. So thanks so much for the participation. And again, these seminars are available on our website, which is burlingtonnc.gov, on the Historic Preservation page, which is under planning. And feel free to to see what other opportunities we have. Thanks so much. I'll turn it over to Conrad to
Yeah.
end the recording.
Great. Yeah. Thank you, Jamie. Thank you, Philip, and everyone else that chimed in and hopped on. And we'll put the recording up as soon as it's available. But other than that, everyone enjoy your evening. And again, thank you for joining. Have a good one.
Great
Thank
great
you.
presentation.
Yeah.
Good
Thank
night.
you.
Bye.
Bye.